Get ready to get sticky. Sticky Situations is sponsored by Corona Crush. Corona Crush is creating Jewish couples always. Join the Facebook group. Just search Corona Crush and look out for virtual speed dating events happening every other week. They're 100% free and 100% Jewish. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Sticky Situations. I'm your host, Rachel, which obviously you all already know because I'm just really unforgettable. Everyone, whatever you're doing right now, stop, except for listening to the podcast. Go give us a 5-star rating on Apple, Spotify, any other podcast platform that allows for it, on Apple or any other platform that allows. Give a glowing review. We need to spread some love around here. Go like Sticky Situations page on Facebook, follow Sticky Situations Pod on Instagram, follow Sticky Situations Pod on TikTok. And if you would like to be a guest on my podcast, which I love having new guests, I love meeting new people. Doesn't matter your age, relationship status. Like if you're married, but you have crazy dating stories from back in the day, message me. I want to hear them. I don't care if they're from 30 years ago. As you can see, I've had so many people on. Message me. I want you to come on the podcast. I don't care your background, gender, anything. Come on the pod. I'd love to have you. So there are applications if you want to be a guest in all my Corona Crush posts. There are links on the socials if you can find them. If not, just send me a DM on Instagram at Sticky Situations Pod or send me an email at stickysituationspod@gmail.com. Same goes for if you would like to date any of my single guests. I'd love to try to hook that up for you. I'm an aspiring shotgun. So let's see what we could do for you. Okay, everybody, we're going to get right into it because I have an extra special guest today. Please welcome the Jewish meme queen herself, my friend Avital. Avital, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, really glad to be here.
Thanks for being here. Okay, Avital, before we get into your dating stories and all of our discussions, can you tell my listeners your age, location, relationship status, and religious denomination?
Hi, so I'm 25, almost 26. Relationship status is single and pretty much at this point not interested in mingling. Um, I'm 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 from the five towns, and religiously I would say I'm modern Orthodox, but I'm more modern Orthodox Machmir. Some people call that like YU Machmir. Yeah, I'm not really like modern Orthodox. I'm kind of more like regular Orthodox. I've actually coined the term Normodox, just regular Orthodox. I dress modestly, keep strictly kosher, shomer nagia, and but I watch TV and movies, and I am more progressive minded, I guess.
Thank you. We all like our own definition, even like within modern Orthodox. Everyone you put like a little label on it, but that really like doesn't define anything. Because modern Orthodox or Orthodox could just mean like again, like you said, everyone has their own things that they do, they don't do, their beliefs, their values. But okay,
Yeah.
Avital, do you want to just jump right in with the story?
Okay. I guess I have a recent story. Maybe it's a message for all the men out there. So recently, I feel like I've been led on a lot when it comes to my dating life. I hate wasting my time. I'm very much like time management is one of my big things about me, and I don't like wasting my time. I really only go out with people who I think like fit all my criteria, don't have any red flags, and like I think it would be a worthwhile date. So recently I got set up with person and the guy had like everything I was looking for. Everything sounded great on paper. It was funny because I even told the person who set me up, I'm like, this is too good to be true. I guess I was not wrong. Um, and we did a Zoom date. It was 2.5 hours, which I thought was very long. And also it started late. I had just come back from a flight the day before. I had work the next day. So I really like made the exception to do the Zoom date. And the Zoom date was fine. We just had a regular conversation. You know, there were no sparks flying because obviously it's a video call. Um, the guy was pretty new to dating, so maybe he just didn't know dating protocol. It didn't cost him any money. It was just us talking, having a conversation. We spoke about Judaism. We spoke about life, just very simple, just a conversation. You know, I'm meeting with a stranger. And then at the end of the date, I actually ended it because I'm like, it's getting late. It was like 11:30, and I said, okay, thanks so much for your time. And I forgot what he said, but then I did not hear back from him that night, so I assumed like, oh, he was not interested. And then I'm not surprised the next day I got a message from the person who set me up saying that you're a great girl, they sugarcoat it, blah blah blah, you're so awesome. He thought you were amazing. Any guy would want to date you, that whole paragraph. And then he goes, oh, but he doesn't see it going anywhere in the future. And that really surprised me because like I didn't think it was like sparks flying, and I didn't think it was like a good date or bad date. It was very neutral to me. But again, like I also acknowledge it's a Zoom date. We didn't see each other in person, and like I was willing to give it another chance because it didn't go poorly. It didn't. I don't think it went fantastic, but how good can a Zoom date go? And I was surprised that he didn't even want to try again or like even have a phone call with me. Um, so that was my most recent story. And yeah, I really felt like I was led on. Like, why waste my time if like he didn't give the only reason he said he doesn't see it going any further. So I thought, okay, maybe he's just not attracted to me. If he's not attracted to me, why go on a Zoom date for 2.5
Yeah.
hours? Just keep it 30 minutes, keep it an hour. You don't have to be attracted to me. I'm not the hottest girl in the world. And if he doesn't see it going further, like why yeah, again, like 5 minutes in if you want to have another conversation or if there's potential, unless they say something that makes them a real jerk in middle. So my keep it short. You don't need to waste my time. I don't think first dates should be long at all. I think they should be an hour to 2 hours max. There was no need to be on the call for a long time, but then I'm like judging him favorably, thinking like he doesn't date a lot, so maybe he just didn't know that you're not supposed to keep them on the phone for so long. So that was frustrating, but that was not
So
my worst dating story.
so okay, well, we're definitely gonna get into that one further. But I just have a couple questions. Was it long distance or it was just like a first call kind of thing that turned into video call?
It was long distance. He was in another state.
Oh, okay. So I guess I think that makes it a little different because I don't know. I've talked about this on previous episodes. If it's like a first call that's like, because sometimes guys will want to do a first call video, or I will, just to see if they're like normal. I think that's fine to keep to like 20 to 30 minutes. If it's like an actual Zoom date, actually, unless you're having a really, really good time, I usually cut them off after like max an hour. Cause like, again, you just said you got in from a flight, it was late, and you had work the next day. So I agree. It's like, why keep me on the phone that long and then not want to talk again? I don't
Yeah.
know.
I
I
thought he was
never,
interested in me because he kept talking. I'm like, oh, he seems interested. I mean, like, I'm not like your friend. Like, I talk to my friends on the phone for hours, but like, why would a random guy want to talk to me if he doesn't want to date me? Does he just enjoy hearing my voice? Because if he does, just follow me on Instagram. So, I'm on Instagram. I have a voice. I'm on Twitter. Sometimes I post on Reddit. So I didn't understand like why he felt the need to talk for so long if he didn't want to date me anyway.
yeah, I don't know. I just think he's probably dumb. And like to your point of like you gave him the benefit of the doubt, my personal opinion is that men never deserve the benefit of the doubt. So,
You've been burned. Wow.
oh yeah, but it's also like it's not even I've been burned. I like to say it as I've been educated.
That's a
Like
good way to put it. Yeah.
anytime you're like, "Oh, he's probably busy. He's probably thinking this. He's probably thinking that." Like, no, he's not. He's just doing what he wants to do, thinking about just himself. And honestly, he probably talked to you for that long because maybe he was like, "Oh, I'll give her a fair chance." Like in his mind, he was giving you a chance, but like in your mind and in most people's minds, he's just wasting your time.
Yeah. I don't need any chesed favors. I don't need a chesed date. I'm very much mentally stable and emotionally mature. I do
Yeah.
not need you wasting my time to make me feel good about myself. If I want to feel good about myself, I would just go onto Instagram and look at how many people shared my recent reel.
And all of her stuff is very funny. So I'll let her plug it at the end, but everyone go follow the Jewish meme queen on Instagram, Twitter.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram and Twitter. I'm not really on TikTok anymore. I deleted the app from my phone after October 7th. I'm like, this is just too much
Yeah.
anti-Semitism. And so I still have my account on there, but I don't post at all. and I also post my WhatsApp status, but you have to be my contact to see that. So mostly Instagram and Twitter.
So yeah, everyone, you can follow Avital at the Jewish Meme Queen on Instagram and Twitter. Um, but yeah, so no, I totally get that. Like, guys, he's just dumb. He hopefully he'll learn. I hope. Did you give the matchmaker like feedback of that? Like, please
I
tell
did.
him for the
It was
future.
yes, it was a friend who set it up, and she only meant well, and the guy was not a bad person at all. Like he was definitely a good guy. By the way, you said he wasn't smart. I mean, maybe he doesn't have street smart because academically he's very intelligent. That's
Yeah.
ironic.
Oh no,
But
I mean common sense.
yeah, common sense. Yeah, yeah. I told her like just let him know like if he's doing another Zoom day, he doesn't have to have it for that long. Like he can cap it at an hour. Like there's no need to. I just think he didn't have experience, so he didn't know. But you know, speaking of like being led on, I can share another story if you want of a guy
Sure.
who led me on in person. This was how many years ago was it? I don't know. I think it was 2019. One of my friends set it up. It was like her husband's like best friend. Um, and he was a good-looking guy, which was like shocking to me. I don't usually get good-looking guys. And I thought he would just like take me to an activity or anything. So he shows up to the house. This is when like I was living with like a family friend. And he showed up in a suit, which right away I'm like, why is he wearing a suit? I'm like not yeshivish. I was wearing like open-toed shoes and a pencil skirt and like this like tunic shirt. Like I don't know why he shows up like looking like I don't know like a yeshiva bacher. And then he takes me to the TWA hotel. I'll probably never go back there again after this. Um, yeah, I no really red flags in the beginning except for the suit that threw me off. See, I always know. I can always tell like 5 minutes in if it's gonna be really bad or okay or like really good. Like you, I can. I mean, I can't predict if it's gonna be amazing, but I can usually predict if it's not gonna go well. So the suit, that was it. And he took me to the TWA. We were there for 4 hours. First of all, he picked me up at dinner time, 7 o'clock. Okay. But
Oh.
I knew it was a first date, so I don't expect dinner because I just have low expectations. And now I always ask before, and usually the guy will ask, like, "Do you want to go to dinner or not?" Or I'll ask them, like, "Is it going to be a food date because it's going to be 7 p.m." Because you know they really don't have common sense. And he took me to the TWA. We were literally like, we kept like moving positions. We were making fun of all the yeshivish dates going on. Very entertaining. You know, the girls wearing these like 4-inch heels, the guys wearing a suit. They're like talking awkwardly. I love making fun of those even though that was literally me myself. And we just like kept walking around. He kept taking me different places, and yeah, I didn't like that he kept asking me personal details. Like he wanted to get very deep, and I'm not interested in getting deep with a stranger on a first date. That's too
Yeah.
much. That's not the protocol. I don't remember the date that much, but I do remember at the end, after 4 hours, he is like to me, "Oh, what did you think? What did you think of the date?" And I'm like before
I
we even
hate
went into the
that.
car.
I
I
hate
hate it.
that.
Like, why are you asking me? Okay. I think that means they want to know. So I said, "Oh, I had a nice time," because I'm just generic. Like I usually process the date once I get home. I don't process it when we're still together. And then
Yeah.
he goes, and I goes, "What do you?" I go, "What do you think?" He's like, "Oh, I have to think about it." Why did you ask me
Oh,
if you're if you, it, usually that's like, okay, would you like to go out again? Not I have to think about it. Anyway, I didn't realize like this guy was a total bum. Also, like he's a particular ethnicity, and he did not appreciate his ethnicity. He kept bashing it. It happens to be one of the ethnicities that you say you'll never date,
oh,
which
the
is funny.
Bukharians.
Yes. And he did not like that he was Bukhari.
I
He kept
have
like,
dated Bukharians.
I
That's
don't
why I will
mind.
not
Yeah,
again.
I would date a Bukhari, and like I don't mind. I'll date like all different types, but like I'm not gonna date somebody who won't acknowledge their ethnicity and is ashamed of it and never and like bashes it. He was
I think
literally
if
like
I were
bashing his
Bukharian,
family.
I would be ashamed too.
No, there
I've
are some
had
really
bad
nice
experience.
Bukharians.
I'm sure
Yeah,
there are great Bukharians out there. I've only had bad experiences with Bukharians,
yeah,
and I've seen like a generalized trend with the ones that I've interacted with, which has been too many.
yeah.
So,
I have never had a good experience with a Bukharian. I happen to have one friend who's Bukharian, but yeah, I don't maybe like if I had more friends who were Bukharian, really good experiences with other types of Spartan. Let me tell you, like Moroccan,
oh,
great.
yeah, I love the
Even
Spartan.
Persian, I've met some really nice Persians. I have a lot of really good Persian friends. They're
Yeah.
awesome.
I love
It's
Spartan. I
yeah,
have a lot of Sparty friends.
yeah,
One of my ex-boyfriends is Sparty. I love a
yeah,
good Sparty guy. I think they're they're more
Oh.
manly than these white guys sometimes. So like,
Yeah, and they wear cologne, which is a plus.
yeah, and they just like, want to treat you like a queen, and like that's what
Yeah,
I want to be treated like.
yeah,
So
just makes
we're
them
we're
it
not
makes them
anti-Sephardi
more.
on this podcast.
Yeah.
I'm just like personally, if I see in a guy's profile that he is Bukharian, unless everything else is perfect in the profile, like Bukharian is a big red flag to begin with to me.
Yeah, there's definitely a specific culture. So I guess like this guy, like he wasn't really acting Bukharian. He was just not being nice. And then so what happened was I didn't like that he asked me that question, but okay, whatever. I just went with it because I'm a nice person and I try to be nice and give a good impression because you never know. Maybe they'll have a friend to set you up with or whatever. So I go home and after that, I literally like I remember I stand by the kitchen counter and I'm like, what just happened? This was insane. Like, I literally cannot believe he made me like, he pried for such personal information. He wasted my time, and then he, like, wasn't clearly was not interested at the end. So I was not surprised when I got a text from him, um, the next day saying, "Oh, he's not interested." He said he spoke to his Rebbe. Also, the guy, like, lied. Like, he told me he, like, woke up for minyan every day, that he had, like, a full-time job. Turns out he doesn't work till, like, 1 in the afternoon. He works in, like, a Jewish school, like, clearly not making a lot of money, and, he literally, like, it's I don't care if you don't wake up for Minion, but, like, if you're waking up at 12 o'clock every day, like, why? Like, why are you not starting your day at, like, a normal time? So, like,
Yeah.
he lied, so that was a red flag too. And he sent me a whole text saying, like, "Oh, he spoke to his Rebbe, he doesn't see it going further, blah, blah, blah," or, like, he liked me, but he didn't think he would see me as a potential spouse, something like that. And I think I don't remember the message exactly, but I think I told him, like, "You led me on and you wasted my time." Um and I think I, like, told him off or something, I don't remember exactly, and then I remember, like, he, like, was still messaging me, apologizing or whatever, he was clearly very arrogant. I should've I should've, like, looked at the message before. This was, like, 4 years ago, I don't even think I have it anymore.
It's okay.
And yeah, I basically just, like, ended up with, like, a thumbs up, like, Shabbat shalom. It was, like, right before, like I think I had, like, a Shabbos challah for, like, a friend, and I was, like, really busy that day. It was a Friday. He literally he sent me the first message, like, an hour before Shabbat. That's when we went out Thursday night, and he didn't message me till, like, 5 o'clock, saying that he wasn't interested. I thought
It's
that was
dumb.
very rude, like, so,
Like you can
um
message me at 10
that
o'clock in
was
the
pretty
morning.
bad. The funny part was, so he was obviously my friend who was getting married, it was her husband's best friend, so he was at,
Oh,
my friend's wedding, and I was, like, doing shtick at my friend's wedding, and, I remember, like, after, like, we did the dance, I, like, made sure to, like, go up to my friend and, like, get a bracha exactly, like, when he was there, just to show him, like, what he's missing out on, and, like, I gave him this, like, kind of like an evil look, like, "I know who you are, I know what you did." It was great, and I honestly I randomly seen him at events. It's funny because I said I thought he was attractive when I first met him, and now every time I see him, he's, like, ugly to me, like, he's not even good looking anymore. It's crazy that the way somebody treats you could literally change your perception of them and their looks, so
yeah. No, 100%. Definitely it makes attractive people ugly. And I think also if someone treats you really nicely, it makes them like so much more attractive.
it's so
So
true.
I think it
That's why,
goes
like,
both ways.
yeah, like you said, looks are not that important to you, and I agree. Like, I'm so not into looks. I really do not care about height unless they're like I'm 5 feet, so I'm really
Yeah.
technically 4'11" and a half. I'm not really 5 feet, but I just round it up because it's easier. So like if I get a guy who's like 5 feet, like I can't date somebody who's 5 feet. Like I'm sure there are girls who are 4'8" who would date him. But like I don't care about height because I'm so short anyway. I don't care about height. I don't care like how like so much about like fit wise. Like like why you connects literally has like they go through like every single body size possible. Petite, a few extra pounds, thin, muscular, skinny. Like I don't care about that much. I'm really not into that. I don't care so much about their career as long as it's a good career. Like I have friends who won't date teachers, even if they have a master's in education. Like I don't care about that. I really just looking for a normal person. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
yeah.
you might change. Like I think when I was 25, 26, I said the same thing. And then as so I had real I think I had two relationships back to back, and it was when I was 27, 28, and they were both very different, both very great guys. And you learn when you have a relationship, you learn what you like and what you don't like within that person that you project into your dating life for the better or worse. I get what you're saying. I don't know. I think I've gotten pickier with guys. Definitely not about looks. I don't care what he looks like. He could be
Yeah.
I aim for medium ugly. I think they treat you better. They
I
try
also
harder.
don't go for the hottest guy in the room. I always like okay, there are a few things like I really like. I prefer if the guy has hair. I'm attracted to hair, but like I will date a bald guy. Like I don't care that much. And like I also like just I won't date somebody who's like morbidly obese. I'm just not attracted to it. But besides for that, like I will literally I will if a guy asks me out and I don't think he's the hottest guy ever, if he has everything else that I like, I would still say yes because I don't know, I feel like I'm looking for a kind man who's gonna treat me like a queen, who's gonna be a good father, a a good spouse. So like I don't know, I feel like looks can fade and I don't think I've ever dated a guy or met a guy who was really good looking um, and like everything else like fit into place. Like usually they're if they're good looking, they're usually not the nicest, or if they're good looking, they're married, or they're gay, or not everything else works out. But it's funny
Yeah.
because you've done like you're talking about like regular dating. I do like I would say shidduch dating for the most part. So it's a
Yeah.
whole different ball game. Like we don't really have like boyfriend girlfriend situation. I started dating when I was 20, but I was put into like the system at 19. So if you want, like we can kind of go into that
Yeah, for
and
sure. I'd
discuss
love to
it
hear
because
about it.
I don't know if anyone's ever talked about shidduch dating on your podcast before.
A little bit. And like you guys know, I do date sometimes. I'm not like I wouldn't say I'm in the shidduch system. I was on Why You Connect for a while and like I've spoken to various shadchans. I don't know if I've ever gone on a date from a shadchan. Most of the dates I go on, yeah, I went on some from Why You Connect. But the other ones were either like friend setups or guys I met on apps. Yeah, I don't think I've gone out on a date like from an actual shotgun, but I have spoken to shotguns. It's just
Yeah.
like not my style because I'm like a little bit more modern. So
Mhm.
yeah, I would love to hear more. I'm sure my listeners would love to hear more. So
Okay, I mean, I guess I'll just depress everybody. So, yeah, I came back from seminary. I went for like part of my second year, but I came back early because I didn't like it. And right away, not right away, like I would say a couple months in, I had known a shadchan that was very popular. So I decided I'll make a resume. I asked my friend what her resume looks like. I copied it and just put my information in. I think shidduch resumes are the dumbest thing ever. Literally, you put your name, kind of where you live, and then you put your parents' names, which is fine, and what your parents do. Because I guess I can, if I have your parents' names, I can Google if like anyone in the family went to jail or anything. So I guess like that's helpful. Um, and and also like usually if the parents are educated, that kind of tells like something about the guy. And then it gives you the siblings, and it tells you the siblings' ages, and then it also goes into so many irrelevant details about the siblings, like who the siblings are married to, what's the mechotanim's name. Mechotanim are like the in-laws. It goes into like what job the sibling has. What sometimes it even lists what yeshiva the sibling learns in or what camp they went to, like crazy stuff. And then you put the rabbi down, even though the rabbi will literally never tell the truth about a person anyway. So what's the point? And you put down this is like the real yeshiva's resume, and then you put down education. People put it in their camps. Usually on the shidduch resumes for the guys, education just says elementary school, high school, and yeshiva. Usually college is not there, um, from my experience. And for girls, it's like education, and then it says like PA school and something really cool. And then you put your references. So usually you'll put like two family friends and then like a couple of your friends on there. And I don't know, references never tell the truth anyway, so I don't see a point to it. So that's like shidduch dating. I started doing that. I got put my resume out when I was 19. Didn't get set up with my first date till I was 20. Um, what is shidduch dating like? So here's how it kind of works. So the the shotgun thinks of an idea for you, and she like sends your resume. You 99% of the time you don't hear back from them. Nothing ever pans out, and they usually won't even tell you like if the guy's not interested. They just like ghost you. Then you okay, so then you don't hear from them, and then all of a sudden you hear that a guy is interested, and you have like 10 minutes to respond. Like the guy gets weeks to respond to your resume, and you get 10 minutes.
Of
You don't get a
course.
lot of time. They expect you to answer right away, and they usually, if you got a yes from the guy, they pressure you to give a yes as well. I was 20 at the time, and the shocking was to start describing this guy. She knew him personally. Um, I asked, like, oh, is he college educated? Because even at 20, I had some intelligence to me, and I knew I only wanted somebody college educated. I was a little more religious back then. Like, I definitely wanted somebody who who like learn Torah part time. I still like want somebody with a full time job, college education, and everything else. So she told me, yeah, I think he went to college. When they say I think, that means
They
he
mean no
probably
way.
did not. They would know if he went to college. So I said yes because I'm like, you know what? Why not? So we go out Saturday night. First thing I noticed, he shows up to the house completely disheveled. Like he didn't smell good. He clearly did not shower from before Shabbos.
Ugh,
Like he had that, I call it the yarmulke smell.
ugh,
Um,
ugh, ugh.
no cologne. His shirt was wrinkled. He was wearing this like interesting half zip up. And here's the rule of shidduch dating, especially when you're under 25. You go on a date where nobody else is gonna see you. Where does he take me? To a Starbucks that was a 5 minutes drive from my house. So he took me to a local place, which was already a huge red flag. Um, and then we were there for about 10 minutes, and he then was getting too distracted by the music. So we left and we drove around, and then he showed me his like some of the music he came up with, which was horrible. He's not a good singer. Um, thank God he's not popular. And then I tried showing him some like I used to do video editing. I tried showing one of the video things I made. He literally did not listen to it at all. He completely ignored it. And then it was less than an hour. He dropped me off back at home. So my first shit update was under an hour, and it was horrible. Obviously, I did not want to go out again. And I remember like speaking to the shotgun, and the shotgun knew me personally, and I asked her like, why'd you set me up with this guy? Like, there was nothing we have in common. He was total jerk to me. He did not go to college. Like, you didn't listen to what I asked for. And she told me, well, I wanted you to get your feet wet. So
I
basically,
hate
I
that.
think that yeah, I don't know if like she knew it was a terrible match, or maybe she forced him to go out with me. Also, the guy was like 27 and I was 20, like a 7-year age gap. Why am I dating a 27-year-old? That was a little bit thrown off. And yeah, so I still have a conspiracy. There's a conspiracy theory. I have a theory that maybe she just set me up with him to like say that she set me up on a date. I don't really deal with that shotgun anymore. Occasionally she'll send me stuff, but yeah, that was my first date, and it was pretty bad.
The worst is when you ask them why they think it's a good idea, and they're like, "Oh, well, he wanted." I guess, like, at least with my experiences with shotguns, or why you connect shotguns, it's like, "Oh, but because he's interested in you, like, that's why you should go out with him." And I'm like, "There's a lot of people interested in me that I don't wanna go out with, so no, thank you, that is not a good reason."
Yeah. My favorite is when I get an anti-vaxxer. I come from a very educated family. A lot of my family members
Wait,
are
hold
doctors.
on.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, anti-vax is in, like, anti, like, COVID vaccine or anti, like, all the vaccines?
If they're anti-COVID vaccine, they're probably also anti-vax. Like, they probably took the anti-vax pill and are, like, anti-everything. Because, like, it one conspiracy like, there are people who just didn't get COVID vaxxed, whatever, like, that's their choice. I won't date them
Yeah.
anyway. And then there are people who are anti-vax and won't date somebody who is vaccinated. Like, that's next level conspiracy theorists. They think
Yeah,
that the
also
vaccine causes infertility.
well, yeah, the COVID vax people say that about the COVID vaccine. I don't know, I find, like, the people who are anti-COVID vaccine are just dumb and, like, they are fully vaccinated for, like, everything else.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess more in the yeshivish system, that's not true. It's just, like, the guys who I've, like, come across, but,
It's very
yeah.
uncommon in the Modocs world. It's mostly in the yeshivish world.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyways, like, guys I'm dating, like, they're not gonna be anti-vax because most of them are very educated and, like, they went to YU or whatnot. It doesn't
Yeah.
come up often, but, like, sometimes I'll go to a singles event that's a little more right wing, like, it's more like modern yeshivish, they call it, and, I'll get set up with somebody, and, like, a lot of times, like, I literally just have a situation where somebody sent me a they didn't even give me the guy's information, they just said, "I'm gonna send you your resume to somebody," and then they go, "Oh, but he has one question, are you vaccinated?" He doesn't want to date somebody who is vaccinated. So I responded, "Well, that's a good thing you asked that question because I won't date anybody who isn't vaccinated." For me, it's a really good way to screen somebody's intelligence.
Yeah.
Because if they did not get vaccinated, 3 years ago, they probably were conspiracy theorists 3 years ago, and that's not going to work for me, and not with my family.
It's also funny, like, I went to Florida like 2 months ago, and I was just like, I thought it would be funny to, like, do the swipey swipe on the dating apps there, just to, like, see what's out there in Florida, like, not in New York, and you wouldn't believe how many guys still have in their profile, like, "Oh, if you have a COVID vaccine, don't reach out," like, "Swipe left if you have the COVID vaccine," and it's like, "Are we still talking about this?" Like,
Apparently,
but
it's still relevant.
it's
They
like
still believe it affects fertility.
it's like
They
get
probably
over
also
it.
didn't go to they probably most of the time with these guys, they went to, like, one of those Excelsior colleges. They don't have a legit degree, they're working for, like, a Jewish company. Not all Jewish companies are bad guys, but I'm saying,
Yeah.
like, they, like, don't have, like, a good like, a fulfilling good career, and I don't know, they usually 99% of the time, there's nothing there for me. I would never date them anyway.
Yeah. No, 100% agreed. But for those of you listening who still believe that the COVID vaccine causes infertility, I know like a lot of people who got the COVID vaccine, what is it now, like 2.5 years ago, almost 3 years ago? And they've had babies since. So they've gotten pregnant just fine, had babies. We're all good. Society is fine. So just like maybe stop making that your personality.
Yeah, and also, like, if you ask if somebody's vaccinated, like, make sure to add in your profile that you will vaccinate your kids against measles and polio and everything else because we need to know how far gone you are.
Yeah.
Like, if you're just
Oh,
anti-COVID, okay,
yeah.
that's one thing, but if you want your child if you wanna start another polio epidemic, like, that's a no-go for me.
Yeah, also, like, I wouldn't marry someone who's anti-vax, like, anyways, but even if something, God forbid, like, I'm the mom, I will sign the papers. The kid is getting the vaccines. No polio in my family. No, thank you. No measles, no nothing.
Yeah. Okay. Did you wanna hear another story?
Yeah, let's do another story before we take a break.
Sure. Okay, so, I mean, there are many reasons why I'm kind of, like, not really burnt out, but burned by the system, and I just dislike dating a lot. I feel like I just always have, like, the crazy story. Like, always the crazy story happens to me. Like, I always get the anti-vaxxer, or I get the person who leads me on for 4 hours. Um, but there was one time I told this story, I put it in, one of my Instagram reels. There was a time when I was set up with somebody, and then, like, I never even went out with them. There's a whole story. So I guess I'll go into that. Basically, this was, like, I don't know how many years ago. Many years ago, like, at least 2 or 3 years ago, and I was on this, like, Shidduch chat. Now there are a bunch of these Shidduch chats, I'm not sure if you're on any of them, where
I
basically
refuse to
they're
join.
okay, good, smart, good choice. These are not ones where, like, people just post profiles. These are ones where there's one matchmaker running the chats, and they've made many matches. Like, I no hate on them, just hate on this particular one. And they basically post descriptions of guys, like usually what they do, their yeshiva level, their education, and what they're looking for, and they write it as like let's say like 1A, or they start off A B C D E F G, and then they keep going through people. And if you like one of the descriptions, you message the matchmaker with your resume, an updated one. She always asks for an updated one, which I think is smart. And you have to send a picture, of course, even though the guy's anonymous. And then if she sends the information to the guy, and then what happens after that is what happens after that. So I've said a couple times I like somebody's description, and I messaged the matchmaker with my resume, and most of the time she's like never messaged me back. But there was one time in particular that she messaged me back, and she said, "Oh, this guy gave a yes to you. You should set up a date." So here's his resume. I'm like, "Oh, but I didn't even like. Do I get time to like decide if I want to go out with them? Just because he said yes doesn't mean I want to say yes." And it was like a Motzei Shabbos, and I remember like Rosh Hashanah was literally like that Wednesday, and I was like going to Florida like on Tuesday morning. Like my flight was literally in 2 days. So she said like, "Oh, you should try to go out like on Monday. Just get it done before Rosh Hashanah. Like, may as well get it over with." Um, so I looked into the guy, and honestly, like everything seemed to line up. Like he went to YU, I think he was an accountant, like basic, simple, nothing screamed red flag. I don't think he was necessarily my look, but everything else about him, I'm like, there's no reason I should not give this guy a chance. So I said yes, and then the matchmaker, she was messaging me at like 11 p.m. It was like super late on Motzei Shabbos, and then she said, okay, in the morning, I'll give you the guy, I'll give the guy's number. I'll give the guy your number, and then he'll set up a date in the morning. So okay, I'm like, okay, perfect. Sunday morning, it was like 10 a.m. I was out to lunch with my friend. No, I think it was 12 by then. I still have not heard back from the guy, even though we were supposed to go out the next day, the next night. And I have two missed calls from the matchmaker. Like one thing about me is I never look at my phone when I'm with friends. I try to like be present in the moment. And then my friend looks at me. She's like, you should really answer. Like, you never know. It could be something very important. So I'm like, okay, fine. I see there's like a 2-minute voice note. And this is what it said. Hi, Avital. I'm really sorry, but basically, the guy never said yes to you. He said yes to somebody else with the same name as you. I think I sent him both your resumes, and I thought he said yes to you, but really it was to a different person. So since he never said yes to you, he said he doesn't even know who you are. And yeah, that was it. Just said, I'm so sorry again. It was my fault. I think after that I left the chat because I'm like, this is a waste of time. If the matchmaker can't even send the proper resume or and like I understand the guy did not have to ever go out with me, but like I thought like common courtesy, there was a mix up, like maybe if the other Avital didn't work out, maybe he would consider me, but I never heard back. I mean, even like 6 months later I saw he was on another Shidduch chat and I even reached out to the matchmaker and then I guess she ignored my message, nothing came out of it. So that was the date that never happened.
I think with that, the matchmaker should just be like, go out with this girl. Like, why? Like, if it were roles reversed, you know that like the woman would be pressured into going out with the guy. So, like, why? I think the matchmaker should have just been like, okay, it's my mess up. I get it, but like, you might really like her. Just go on a date, have a phone call, do whatever. Um, I don't know. Those are my thoughts. This
It's
is
not
how
how it works.
society.
Yeah, in the
It,
Shidduch world, the guys are held on the highest pedestal. Like, wait, if you ask for somebody who's mentally stable, still Orthodox, and has a career, they tell you you're being too picky. Like, you're being too picky. It's ridiculous. Like, why can't I have all three? In the regular world, you can get all three. It's not a question. You can get somebody who's has morals, is educated, has a good career, and is normal. But why is it in the frum world? It's like so hard to come by. Not even adding in if they're good looking. Like that's not something you can even add to the list. You really like
yeah.
can only look for those are like the only three things I really look for. And it's like it's so hard to find in the I would say like the I don't know if it's so hard to find the non-orthodox world, but in my circles, it's like the guy is already married or he just does not exist.
Yeah, I think in the modern Orthodox circles, from my experience and from like my friends' experiences, and I have a lot of like really great female friends, it's also really hard to find. It's funny though, because like if you dip your toes in like to non-religious dating or even like non-Jewish dating, which like I don't do, I'll go out with non-religious guys sometimes, but I kind of stopped doing that because it's just a waste of time. But
Yeah.
I don't know, like even last night I was bored, so I was looking through like you can see, like, some dating apps, you can see who likes you, who don't meet your, like, criteria. So, I was just, like, looking to see because I was curious and, like, my criteria is obviously, like, Jewish. So but I saw, like, so many guys who, like me, who sent a message, whatever, and they're like, "Oh, you're so beautiful, I'd love to get to know you," and all this, and they look like solid guys, good jobs, age appropriate, even, dare I say, cute, and, like, not Jewish.
Yeah.
Or, like, I happen to have personally had very good experiences with guys who are not as religious. I've had some weird experiences with them too, but I would say I mostly went out with guys who weren't religious, like, earlier in my dating career, just when I was just trying to get, like, more dating experience, or I was like, "Okay, let's see," like, they say they're traditional, we'll see, like, any of this. And, like, they treat you nicely, they have real jobs, they don't think they're,
Yeah.
like, God's gift to earth, like all these mediocre
They
Orthodox
brush their
guys.
hair, they put on cologne, they shower before, like
Yeah, they, like, look presentable, and I'm not saying I have gone out with modern Orthodox guys who are presentable as well and who treat me nicely and who have jobs and all of that. I'm just saying I feel like it's not as much of an anomaly in the secular world to find someone who is put together with a good job, is a good person, and is age appropriate, and whatever, like, other, like, very normal qualifications that aren't picky. So, I don't know, I think it's a problem within Orthodoxy that these guys are raised to think that they're God's gift to this world,
yep.
and that, like, any woman is gonna be lucky to marry them no matter what. And I
Well,
know in these
they do get married no matter what, that's the problem. It does work out for them.
in the yeshiva system, I think more and more, like, these more modern guys, it's not working for them anymore. Because I think, like, modern women are either going the other direction and becoming not religious or, like, they don't want them. Like,
Yep.
at least personally, like I'm 30. I don't think that's so in the yeshiva system, yeah, that's old. But like in the real world, like that's not so old. And even like for the past couple of years, I've had the mindset. I think once I've really dated guys who were what I was looking for, who treated me really nicely, I was more like now when I go out with a guy, I assess in my head, I was like, or sometimes even before I go out with them, like if I see a profile, if I talk to them, this is mostly the why you connect guys. This is why I canceled my account.
Yeah.
I think in my head, I'm like, would I rather be with this person or would I rather be single? And most of the time, my answer is that I would rather be single. So that's why I don't need them. And I think a lot more women are starting to think like that. Like, I'm
Yeah.
fine single. I like, yes, I would love a husband. I would love a partner. I would love to have kids. I would love a family. But like, I'm fine. I love my single life. And like, I don't need some like person who's going to just come in and make my life more difficult and stressful in all the bad ways. Like,
Yep.
be a constant stress on my life.
Yep. Yeah. I always tell people like I feel I have like everything in my life is all set up. I have my own car, I have my own apartment, I have a good job. Like I all I'm missing is the man. But I'd rather be single and happy than married and miserable. So
Yeah.
I don't need a man to make me happy. Would it be nice to have a companionship? Would it be nice to have somebody who helps me with the dishes? Would it be nice to have a child and to have a family? Of course, but I make my own life and I make my own happiness, and I don't need a man to make me happy.
Yeah, and I think like that's where the system is flawed because there's all these shadchans and parents and everyone in society pressuring these women into thinking that they're nothing without a man. And that's what leads women, like, not even talking about like these awesome women marrying these like mediocre men. I'm talking about like that's how people end up in really bad situations.
Yep.
Like, and I'm not saying like divorce is a bad situation. Like, yeah, something came up where like someone who I grew up with got married very young, had a bunch of kids, was married for a while, and like we just found out like they got divorced. That was like the big gossip going around my like home friend chats, um, like last week. And and it's crazy. I was talking to my friend about it. It's like just because you marry someone that you get married, you're early 20s, you get married, you have kids, 10 years later, like you're right you're right back like where you started, but now you have a whole like family that and a broken house. And I'm not saying that all divorces are broken homes, but I'm just saying like you just have this situation. And like that led me into conversation with my parents. And I was like, listen, I would rather be 30 and single than 30 with kids and divorce and like having to figure that out. Like,
Yeah.
no, thank you.
Yeah, my parents got divorced when I was 5. So, I think what my mom was like mid thir early 30s. I think my mom had me when I was 30. So she was 35 and divorced with 3 young children. That's not
Yeah.
easy.
No. Like, it's so much easier to just be 35 and single. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's easy. Like, we all know the hardships of being, well, you know, you're young, but
Not in the yeshivish world. I'm considered
that's true.
really old.
That's true. I'm not minimizing your experience.
Yeah,
We
I'm
all
the expired tea that already has maggots in it. Like that's what we
like we all know, at least in our circles, like what it's like to be quote unquote older and single and like all the pains that go with that. And like we all feel it. Like all of my friends and I talk about it. I feel it myself. Like as much as I'm enjoying my time being single, like we all feel it. But at the same time, like it could be so much worse. And
yeah,
like that's what I try to remind myself like when when we are talking about it and like when we do think about it.
yeah.
Unless you're a
And
man, then you
yeah.
have problems. Go to therapy.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know, like, I have family members who got married very late in life. Like, one of my favorite uncles, he didn't get married till he was in his 40s, and he was totally normal. Like, like people say, like, oh, he's not Orthodox, so maybe that says something. They say, like, oh, if the guy's not married at 35 and he has a great job and everything, like, he must be weird. Like, I genuinely believe, like, maybe for some cases it is like that, but they're just some good people who just don't meet the right one. They're just left behind.
Yeah.
And my uncle was in his 40s. My aunt was in her 30s, mid 30s, and thank God they're very happy to have a bunch of children. And he just did not find the right one. And like I saw the difference between when I would like when he would be dating somebody and like it like and he was versus like when he married my aunt. Like he was so much happier and he just it took him a long time to find the right one, but once he found it, it was worth it. So there is no age limit. There is no perfect time. Like I don't
Yeah.
know. I think everyone has their own journey in life, and our goal is to find happiness and to live a meaningful life no matter where the journey takes us. And just because like in the Frum society they say, oh, you have to be married at a certain age and have kids to be successful, doesn't mean like you're not successful.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you. And when I say like if you're a male and you're a certain age and not married, there's something wrong with you, I don't necessarily mean that like you're weird. I mean like sometimes what's wrong with you is your mentality. And I think we all need to work on ourselves constantly. Like that's like a constant struggle. Like how can I be a better person? What can I do better for myself? And I think a lot of women that I know are like that, and I've talked about this. Like a
Yeah.
lot of women are always trying to self-improve. I don't and yes, a lot of men I know are also. Like I happen to know very good guys like in my own social circles. Like a lot of guys are also trying to do better to self-improve, but the ones that I see who are older and single are not. So
Yeah.
like if that's you, maybe like schedule a therapy appointment, maybe see like reflect on what's and like there's no shame in it. Everyone needs therapy. Like go to
Yeah.
therapy. But
Yeah.
you need to just like reflect and see and maybe like you are in your own way and sometimes it's just like it is a really great person whose person hasn't come and yeah that does happen but like a lot
Yeah.
of times I think a lot of people need to just reflect to see how they can better themselves
Yeah.
but with all of that let's take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsors and we can talk about this more when we come back from the break so we'll be right back. Sticky Situations is sponsored by Corona Crush. Are you tired of swiping on dating apps? Tired of guessing whether the cute guy or girl you keep seeing around is Jewish and or single? Then you need to run, not walk to join Corona Crush. Corona Crush is a Jewish organization working to create Jewish couples always. Corona Crush has over 30 confirmed engagements, over 22,000 members from all over the world, and has set up over 50,000 speed dates. Join the Corona Crush Facebook group and post yourself or have a friend post you and see who reaches out. Fill out the survey to sign up for virtual speed dating events happening every other week. Corona Crush is 100% free and 100% Jewish. Worst case, you end up with some stories of your own. Best case, you find the love of your life. Try it out today. Here on Sticky Situations, we tend to focus on bad dating stories, but sometimes dates do go well and lead to proposals and weddings. Who would have thought? And what do all of those require, you might be asking? Well, the answer is flowers. Who doesn't want flowers from someone they've been seeing? Don't forget, flower petals and bouquets needed for proposals. And that's even before all the flowers that go into weddings. Sticky Situations is sponsored by Primrose Flower Shop. In my opinion, Primrose is the coolest flower shop around and has the best customer service to fulfill all of your floral needs. Primrose offers a range of services from your basic bouquets to subscription services where you can get flowers delivered once a week. They deliver all over the tri state area, including Manhattan. Primrose does weddings, bar and bat mitzvahs, and other simchas. I've personally been to a wedding where Primrose did the flowers, and the work they did was beyond gorgeous. Primrose additionally offers in store proposals, including a romantic setup with candles and music. Primrose is located at 2922 Avenue M in Brooklyn, and the phone number is 929 376 9815. You can also follow Primrose on Instagram at PrimroseNY. So, if you can't get someone out of your head, buy them some flowers from Primrose. They'll either love it or they'll find you really creepy. But regardless, the flowers will be out of this world. Okay, everybody, we're back. Okay, Avital says she had another thought that she wanted to share
Yeah.
regarding working on ourselves.
Yeah, so talking about working on ourselves. So, I find I have this like tendency, and I think it's like comes from like my inner child maybe, that whenever a guy rejects me, which I'm okay with rejection, I can handle it. I take like a day to just reflect on it, and then I get over it the next day. Literally, I'm like, oh, I'm awesome, I'm great, like who cares? I think a lot of times, like when we get rejected, we like to think about it. I think it's important to think like, why did we get rejected? Sometimes you should contemplate. And sometimes I think like, "Oh, maybe he wasn't attracted to me," and then I'll go into this whole, like, pity for myself saying, "Oh, he wasn't attracted to me, maybe I need to change this about myself and look this way, and maybe then he'll like me." Or sometimes I go, "Maybe I'm not smart enough, or maybe I'm just not good enough," and then I literally have to give myself a pep talk, and I go like, "Let's go through the things that you are, like, you're an amazing person, you are pretty, people find you attractive, you are smart, you have a good career, stop bashing yourself." I think, like, our default is to say we're just horrible, and then I tell myself, like, maybe it wasn't me, maybe it was him, and, um, if he's not if he didn't wanna date me, like, it's not meant to be, and I don't wanna I think you mentioned this on a different podcast where I don't you don't wanna be dating somebody who is not interested in you. You don't wanna be married to somebody who doesn't like you 100%. So, it
Yeah.
works out, like, I don't wanna date somebody who isn't attracted to me, who will only date blonde girls who are really thin. That's not gonna work for me. And I don't wanna date somebody who doesn't respect my social media or, like, my career. That would never work for me in the future. So I kinda try to hype myself up and I go like, "No, like, let's go through the list of accomplishments and how amazing you are and what people say about you." And I try to, like, look through, like, old messages people sent to me. Usually it's women hyping me up, but women are just the best. And,
Women are.
I tell myself like, "No, you're amazing, you're great. This guy is missing out, and there will be somebody else one day who will appreciate you, who will praise you, and who will love you for who you are."
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And yeah, like you shouldn't be trying to change things about yourself that are good. When I say work on yourself, it's like, "Oh, okay, like I could have handled that situation better. I could be more compassionate. I could be." I don't know, like one of the things that I've gotten feedback on is like sometimes I'm just really neutral in situations on dates. And usually if I'm super neutral, the answer is probably going to be no, but like I'll give them another chance. But apparently, like, I'm very easy to read, so, like, guys are like, "Oh, you didn't seem interested." And it's like, okay, like, maybe I need to do a better job of, like, if I am feeling interested or neutral, I need to act more interested.
But
So,
then you don't wanna give the wrong message that you were really interested when you're not.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, it's just, like, the feedback I've gotten, like, in scenarios where I've ended up super neutral and I'm like, "Okay, I would go on a second date if he's interested." I don't know if this is my husband, but, like, I would go on a second date, and then the feedback is like, "Oh, he doesn't wanna go out on a second date because he didn't think you were interested." It's like, "Okay, like, maybe I could do a better job." Like, I don't wanna make these guys feel bad. Sometimes I'm really not interested, and that's okay. But it's just like but yeah, I think it's very important to realize the good things about yourself, and I don't know, it's funny because this came up at my Shabbat meal yesterday, and someone asked me because we were talking about dating, of course. I was talking about the podcast. It just like comes up. And
Same with
I think
same with me and my memes, it always comes up.
it always comes up, but I love it. That's how I get podcast guests. That's how I like network.
Exactly.
And it's like a fun topic of conversation. So I think it was a guy who asked me this, and he's like, "What's the worst rejection you've ever had?" And honestly, I I don't really see, like, guys not wanting to go on a sec first of all, I'm just gonna say it, and I'm not, like, full of myself, I'm not, like, anything. It's usually me saying no, or it's,
Mhm,
like, a guy saying he doesn't want a second date because I wasn't interested or, like, I'm feeling
mhm.
the exact same way. I think I've only had a couple times where, like, I was interested in continuing and the guy was not. So it's, like, only been a handful of times, or, like, the g I think I just tried to stop hyping myself up about guys. It's like, "Oh, he's cute. I'd be interested in going out with him if he's interested," but I'm not, like, planning our wedding and our future children and
Yeah,
everything.
that's what I usually
So
say also. Like, "Oh, I
yeah.
thought it was good. If he wants to go out with it, we go great. If not, I'll set him up with somebody else." Like, that's what I usually say.
Yeah, so, like, I don't know, it was just an interesting, like, thing, but yeah, I think anytime it has happened, it's mostly like, oh, I see a guy that I'm like, oh, I really like, I think he's a great guy. I would love to go out with him, which also does not happen that often. And if he says no to me, then I don't, sometimes, like, yeah, you could get down on yourself, like, oh, he must not like this and this and this about me. But at the end of the day, like, yeah, you want someone who likes you. You don't want someone so shallow who doesn't like this about you. You don't want someone so insecure. Like, I definitely have guys who are
Mhm.
too insecure for like my personality. And it's like, I don't want to be with a guy like that because he's going to be insecure throughout everything in life.
Yeah, I'm
If
very
like,
much not attracted to that. If we can go
me
into a
neither.
dating story I had when I was
Yeah.
20, I could have been married actually. I could have gotten engaged and married. Probably
Yeah.
would have ended up in divorce. Thank God I made the right choice at 20. I was still smart enough to know. But yeah, like insecurity is a very big turnoff for me. Like I want like a macho man. Like I want a guy who is confident and like acts. I love masculinity. I'm very attracted to that. So
Mhm.
when a guy is insecure, um, it's like a huge turnoff. But basically, this is not the reason I broke up with this guy. I actually dated a guy many years ago, like 6 years ago at this point, I guess. And we dated for a few months. I'd say 2 months, but in the yeshivish world, that's like he wants to get engaged after a month, and I said no because um he was not in, he was a little insecure for me, and also I didn't think he was smart enough for me. And the main reason we did not work out is because while I would have made a good wife for him and I would have made him very happy, I don't think I would have been happy. Like you can be right for somebody and they may not be right for you. And I just felt like I needed something more, and like he just wasn't financially stable enough for me. He wasn't as ambitious and driven as I wanted, so I ended up breaking it up. And actually like after I broke it off, I felt such relief and I was like the happiest person ever. So it was just a sign like I knew I should have done it a little earlier and like I did the right thing. But yeah, just because a guy likes you and just because a guy is interested in you doesn't mean you have to be interested in them. Like you will find somebody who is attracted to you, and you will find somebody who will treat you well and who will fit things that you need, who will make a good spouse for you. Just because this one guy likes you doesn't mean you have to date them.
Yeah.
We don't have to be desperate.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Him liking you is not a reason to go out again if you don't want to.
Yeah. And like you don't have to stay in a relationship just because like you finally have a guy who likes you back. Like just because you dated 6 times doesn't mean you have to continue. There's no pressure. You know what's right for you, and this is your life. This is your future. If something
Yeah.
about the guy bothers you, just because the shotgun tells you to continue doesn't mean you have to continue. You know yourself better than anybody else.
Yeah. Agreed. Exactly.
Yeah. So at least I'm glad at 20 I was a little bit smart.
Yeah.
Um, no, you know, it was interesting actually because my father, he told me, like, he asked me one question, and this was like the Motzei Shabbos before I broke up with him. And he said, "Do you respect him for who he is now?" And I had to think about it, and I realized I did not respect him. And you know, whatever, the guy did not work out. He's actually married. He probably has a bunch of kids by now. Clearly, he found somebody who worked out for him, but he was not right for me, and I have no regrets. I'm like I always tell people, like as much as I want to be married now, where I am at life, like I have no regrets that I have not gotten married yet. I'm very happy where I am, and every year that I'm not married, I'm like wow, like I'm glad I didn't get married yet because I was able to accomplish A B C D. Like I was able to do so much with my life, and I feel like every year I'm not married, I become a better person, and yeah, I just become I would become a better spouse.
I agree. When the time when everyone's time comes, that's the right time. We might think we're at the right time in our lives, but like we're not because clearly if it was the right time, then we'd be married. So,
Yeah. And yeah, I do believe in the right time. And I also like have this like kind of like pessimistic thought in the back of my head, like, you know, like not everybody, maybe not everyone's meant to be married. Um, that's why I tell myself, like, you know, I have to like put myself into perspective sometimes. And I go like, okay, Avital, like, what is your goal in this world? Is your goal to be married and have kids? Or is your goal to spread happiness throughout the world and live a meaningful life and just find joy and yeah. And I tell myself, like, what is your goal? And it puts things into perspective, and it helps me kind of deal with the situation. Like I'm not married, but I'm still accomplishing my goal 100% even though I'm not married.
yeah. Yeah, and I've tried to change my mindset and talk to my friends and change that, and it's like you need to be happy with who you are as a person and what you're doing to accomplish that. And yeah, I think to myself, okay, what if being married isn't in my future? But like instead of being some people like might think about that and just be depressed. I try to think about it and be like, okay, but then what is my purpose? Like what am I going to do in life? Not saying that your purpose is to get married if you're married. It's just like what are the other things that I want to do to help people and to make the world a better place?
Yeah.
So,
And you can accomplish it without being married. And like, thank God I'm living in the generation where they have technology. You can have a child by yourself. Like, I really want to have a child. Like, I, as much as I want to be married, like, I really want to have a family. I really want
yeah.
to like, give life. So like, I already decided like, if I'm not married at a certain age, I'm just gonna have a child on my own. Like, I don't need a man to give me this child. Because and I because I have that option, it kind of like I feel like it liberates women. Like, we don't need to
Yeah.
settle because back in the days, like literally rabbis would tell women like just get married so you can have children and then divorce them after. Like, I'm not kidding, that's a real thing.
It's
And
awful.
nowadays, like we have technology and we have awareness that if you want to have a child and you're 40 years old, like you can have one. And
Yeah.
I'm very happy that we're in a generation that does speak about it.
Yeah, I agree. And I have the same thoughts. Although, like, I think I've changed my mind about wanting to have a baby on my own. I think I'd rather adopt. But I don't know.
That's
If
also an
if the
option.
time ever comes, like, I'll make that decision and I'll weigh my options. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a miracle. Like, we have we can make that decision.
Yeah.
And that should just show men, like, we don't need you. So, like, step up your game.
Yeah, I'm hoping. I really feel like the women these days are not settling, and I think maybe that's why there's more single women. Like, most of us would rather just not be married than be unhappy, and I'm
Yeah.
hoping it'll make guys a little bit better. I don't know. So far, I don't really see a difference. They say like get married young because it only gets harder when you're older. I feel like dating's always been hard for me. It's never come easy. Nothing in life has ever been easy for me, and
Yeah.
yeah, I don't believe it was easier when I was 19 versus now. I
Yeah.
think it was equally as hard.
I agree. I think
Yeah.
it's always been hard and it's supposed to be hard. Like it's not supposed to be easy. If it was easy, then like you'd have
Yeah.
found the person. Like it's hard because like these people are not the right people.
Yeah, I hate dating. I hate being set up. I hate the whole process. I just wish I'm not really like friends with guys. I'm more like friends with only women. I just wish like I met this guy, we were like best friends, and we ended up getting married. Like, I wish I could just meet somebody naturally and they were just like conversation would just flow and we would could totally avoid this whole process. That's like my ultimate dream. But the problem is like I don't really put myself in those situations and probably wouldn't happen. But like all my friends all say like we wish we didn't have to go through the system, be set up, go on these first dates, 5 days. Like, we wish we just met somebody like in the movies.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
I agree also. And like I mean, I have guy friends. I meet guys organically, but I've never met a guy. Honestly, I've only had a couple situations where I met guys organically and I'm like, wow. But then it like never goes anywhere. So,
yeah. It's like, oh, it could be a whole story. Like, I always think like, oh, if the guy like whenever I'm set up with a person and there's so many similarities. Let's say like if I'm set up with a guy and he wants to live in Florida and I want to live in Florida, I'm like, okay, great. Hopefully it'll work out. Like, it seems so good. Or like I was one time set up with this guy and like we had a very similar family background. And I'm like, I thought, great, like we're gonna have so much in common. Like, this could be potential. Ended up being he was another story. Like, we went out once and it was great. Like, it was good. It was a good date. I knew he wanted to go out again. I forgot how we were set up. I had no recollection of that. Maybe why you connects. I don't know. And then we were gonna go out again, and literally an hour and a half. So he was supposed to pick me up, and he was like an hour and a half drive from where I live. He called me and he's like, "I'm really tired because I was up a lot for the Lag BaOmer celebrations. So can we just do a Zoom date instead?" I was literally like in the middle of blow drying my hair. Like, I thought he would pick me up because I really I prefer that guy picks me up from where I live. I don't live in the city. I live in the suburbs, in the five towns. So like usually like the guy picks you up in his car and then you go somewhere like local-ish but far away. So I was like hoping he would pick me up and we'd go somewhere near me and I wouldn't have to meet him in the city again. And he literally told me he was tired, so he wanted to do a Zoom. So I did the Zoom because I was dumb. Nowadays, if a guy ever asks me that, the answer is no. Thank you for not dating. But back now, I've learned my lesson. But I said yes to the Zoom, and we did like an hour and a half Zoom or whatever it was. And then he ended up rejecting me anyway the next day. So what a waste. I think it was why you connects. I think he said text me saying he's not interested. But before he did that, I quickly unmatched with him. So I was like the first one to decline the match.
oh
Um,
my gosh.
but yeah, he was another story.
Yeah, that's a red flag if he's just like, "Oh, I'm tired, so like, can we just do a Zoom?" Like, if
Yeah.
you have a good reason, like it's okay to reschedule, it's okay to cancel, it's okay to ask for a Zoom date instead of in person. But you have to have like a good reason and an apology and like recognize that that's not cool.
Yeah, and not an hour and a half before the date, or like, dude, be responsible. If you know you're gonna be up late the night before, don't schedule a date for the next day. Schedule it a day
Yeah.
later, or like say first, like I want to go out with you, but this week I can only do Zoom. Is that okay? You don't call right when she's getting ready for the date and then just say let's do a Zoom. Like that's horrible. It's
Yeah.
not
Like you
manners.
could have
And he
texted in the
wasn't wait,
morning.
he wasn't like 25. Like I was like 24 at the time, I think. Like he wasn't a little guy. He was like 32. So like, what
Oh.
was his excuse?
Oh.
Like
Yeah. Nah. Nah.
he should know the protocol.
Yeah, also like at least lie. At least text early in the day and be like, "Hi, I woke up. I'm really not feeling well. Would I still want to talk to you? I'm not feeling so great. Could we either reschedule or could we have a Zoom date?" Like
Yeah.
you don't need to know that you're not feeling well because you were up late for Lag BaOmer.
And he was like, "Oh, I'm tired. I don't want to drive far if I'm tired." First of all, drink caffeine. Take a
Yeah,
power nap.
be an
I don't know.
adult.
Figure it out. Yes, be an adult. Like you know that it takes women a long time to get ready for a date, especially if you have curly hair like I have. So literally plan in advance. Be responsible. That morning of, you see you know when you're tired the morning of. You don't just get tired at 6 p.m. when the date's at 7:30. So
Yeah,
yeah, be responsible and reschedule or don't go out, but don't waste your time and then not even go out again. That was
yeah,
very big jerk move on his part.
yeah. I hope you gave negative feedback.
I think I did. He wasn't even that good looking anyway. Like he was okay. Like I was being more open minded.
32 and 24. Ugh.
Maybe he was like 31. I don't know. I was 25. I don't remember the exact ages, but it was I think it was last year. No, I think
Like
it
be
was I don't even know.
responsible.
Yeah. It was like
Be an
May last
adult.
year or something. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like a lot of men are not mature. There are some exceptions. I've dated a guy who was very mature. He was a great guy. He did not want to go out. We went out twice, and he was not interested in continuing because I was not firm enough for him. So that was interesting. Even though, like, I don't know how religious he thought he was. Like, I remember we went to this like place. He was a very nice guy. It was a great suggestion. The person who suggested it. Like, I see why they suggested it. He wasn't really my look, but I was willing to be open minded. And he was a mensch. Like, everything was good. He did not listen to non-Jewish music, which is like a huge thing, like the yeshivish world, and I did. But what was
Mhm.
crazy is he had used to listen to non-Jewish music, and we were in this arcade place. He was singing along to all the non-Jewish songs. Um, but apparently we were not hashkafically aligned. Also, I didn't know before I went out with him that he was in yeshiva for like 6 years. I probably would not have considered it. Just like guys who learned yeshiva for a long time are just too religious for me. But
Yeah.
so that was interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
really have so many positive stories. Mostly only negative.
That's okay.
I do have
Not
a couple
yet.
positive. I have a couple positive that like I did go out with guys who were real mensches, but I was not into them or they were not into me. Like I definitely have gone out with good people, but I would say most of my stories are bad.
Yeah, but I think that's usually how it is until it isn't.
Yeah. And that's why I make really good memes. A lot of my viral memes came out from bad dates.
Yeah, so you're taking the negative and turning it into positive.
Yeah, and I can make money off of it. It's great.
Yeah, it's the best. It's the best when you could just take I mean, that's how this podcast started. Like I came out of really good situations and then back into the terrible dating world and started having such bad situations. It's like, okay, let's make this funny. Let's do something with this. And now I have this podcast that all of you are listening to.
Yeah,
And I get to
and
meet
it's
really cool people and I do really fun things with the podcast and like I don't know, you heard a few episodes ago, I had a friend who also had a bad experience, so she did something. She created events for it. Like I think when you turn your negative experiences into positive, it it makes it so much better.
yeah.
So
And I find the podcast was very relatable. I actually discovered the podcast and it was crazy because the first episode I listened to was talking about Why You Connect. And I was like at the time I literally deleted Why You Connect like 3 times. And I've had bad experiences. I feel like it's a waste of money. Somebody needs to do the math on how many people they got engaged and versus how many people are paying like $30 a month or $18 a month, whatever it is. Like they must be making a ton of money. I know they do run other things besides for like these events, but like even their singles events they do, they're not free. You still have to pay money even if you're a Why You Connect person.
yeah.
Um, But yeah, I was just like, I don't like wasting my time and I don't like wasting money. So I was like just so sick of like spending so much money. So I did a poll on my Instagram saying like, oh, why should I keep Why You Connects? And then I think you responded to the poll and I listened to the podcast and it was so creepy or crazy. It was like exactly what I needed to hear. Like it was perfect. I think the podcast is just really relatable. And it's so crazy how many women have like the same stories.
Yeah. And it's funny that you say that because basically what happened was my friend who actually was recorded that episode with me, she texted me. She's like, "Oh, Jewish Meme Queen is doing a poll about why you connect." So I was like, "Oh," and I guess I hadn't known about your profile before. Maybe I had seen your memes without like really knowing. So I was like, "Okay, let me check this out." So I was like, "Oh, this is so funny that we just talked about this on the podcast." So yeah, it was very coincidence, funny timing, but I'm really glad because now we get to have this episode and this conversation.
Yeah.
And now I get to
I
see all
know.
your memes.
Yeah, I know, like, people will be like, "But you can't speak about this organization, it's lashon hara, it's gossip." And then I go, "But there's a concept called, like, lifnei iver lo titein michshol," that before a blind person, you don't put a stumbling block, and I feel like a lot of people have like, the Why You Connect has been a stumbling block for them,
Yeah.
and people shouldn't have awareness, like, yes, like, do they make engagements? Yes. Like, does it work out for some people? Yes, but for I feel like a lot of people on it, they just keep getting burned out, and, the guys are just not great, and, yeah, maybe Why You Connect will listen to this and realize, "Wow, like, our database isn't great, let's fix it." Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can say I have friends personally who have gotten married from Why You Connects, and that's why I was on it for so long. It's because it's like one of my friends, she was on it for years, probably like 10 years, and she got married like 2 years ago from YU Connects. So like from that I was like, okay, fine. She was like, I was on it, I hated it like for years and years and years. And then they sent me one guy and that was my husband. So like it does happen and I kept having that mindset and then it just like messed with my mental health way too much.
Mhm.
And like we were saying, it's like you get rejected and it affects your self-image and how you see yourself, which again, I didn't take this too seriously, but it's like, okay, these are the matches I'm getting. These are the guys that I'm getting. And I just had like one too many bad suggestions and bad experiences. And then I had a really bad interaction with the shotgun and I was like, okay, I'm done. Like this was it
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah, and just because it worked for some people does not mean it's gonna work for you. And like same with me and like J Swipe. Like I've been on J Swipe for years. And like I know so many people who met. Like literally my friend's sister met her husband from J Swipe. Like, yes, it worked for some people, but like just because it's working for some people, if you're having a negative experience with something, you do not need to continue because for somebody else it worked out. If it's
Yeah.
affecting your mental health, if it's affecting your life, you're like I really genuinely feel like if something is meant to be, God's gonna make it happen. So if you're not happy with YU Connects or JSwipe or any of these dating apps, don't go on it. Like it'll work out in another way. You don't have to like mess with your mental health.
Yeah.
Just because potentially you may find the one.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it is important. We all have to do our hishtadlut, like our work to like make things happen. We can't just like sit around in our apartments and expecting a guy to come knocking on our door. But so you have to do like your own work, your own hishtadlut. But if one of those methods isn't working, don't continue. There are other things to do.
Yeah. Like I always tell people like if sometimes in life like something's really not working out and there could be two you could have two ways to look at it. You could continue doing it and hope like it's not working out but you'll keep trying or like you just take another direction. And a lot of times in my life when I've tried to like push something and I tried to make something work out and it just didn't, I took another direction and that direction led me to like much more happiness than if I had keep continuing try to make something work. So um I don't know. I've since I'm not doing these apps anymore, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna start going to singles events. I hate singles events, but like some of them are not bad. Some of them are good. And like you until like you've been burned so many times, like you have to keep trying other outlets.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Well said. Okay,
Yeah.
Avital, do you have any other stories or insights that you want to share before we wrap up the episode?
I do have a story actually. This is kind of a
Okay.
message for matchmakers. Please be extra sensitive and also give women the benefit of the doubt. I had a story when I was like 21 or 22 and my it was Shabbos already. My friend came over in the afternoon and she said, "Oh, there's like a singles event thing happening for Shabbos. Do you want to come with me? One of my siblings is going." So I said, okay, like I didn't really ask many questions. I didn't know what she was talking about. I'm like, you know what? Why not? Like, my hair was not even done, whatever. I'm like, I may as well go. Like, why not try it? So I show up to this event and I see a lot of people have name tags. And basically, my friend did not tell me, maybe she didn't know or whatever, that this was like a paid event run by an organization. And so we show up to the event, and one of the persons running it notices me, got a name tag, and she goes, "Oh, like who are you people?" And I tell her my name, my age, and then she goes, "Oh, you know this is a paid event. Like people paid money to be here, and also, like so many women were rejected from coming. Like how dare you come to this event not invited? And also like you're not even the right age." And then she ended off with, "Oh, and yeah, you need to leave. Like you can't be here." It was like literally like a Kamsa bar Kamsa story. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, you learned that in school,
Hmm.
where like the wrong person was invited to this party, and then that caused
Yeah.
like the temple destruction. I don't even know the whole story, but and I was like mortified because like she said it out loud in front of a lot of people, and like I didn't know this was like a paid event. Like nobody told me. I literally came like blindsided, so I like left like immediately after. I was so embarrassed. I think my friend stayed, but yeah, like maybe the matchmaker, like there were so many ways that she could have done it. Like I understand it's a paid event. Like I understand. Like I didn't know. Like you could have just told me. Like she could have just said, "Oh hey, can you come over to me for a second? I want to ask you something." And she could have like gently said, "I just want you to know, like I know you probably did not mean this. It's actually a paid event with organizers, so we really prefer that only people who signed up in advance can be there." Like if she would have said that, I would have totally been okay. That makes so much sense. Thank you for letting me know. I had no idea. But the fact that she had to like publicly humiliate me and like tell everyone in public, like, "Oh, like you're not supposed to be, or you're not the right age, or this is not for you, like get out," like that was really bad. And I remember like I was very humiliated. And I know there's like a law in like the Judaism, like if somebody humiliates you, you should tell them, you should ask them to they have to ask you for forgiveness, right? So I was like not gonna wait till Yom Kippur, which was like 6 months later. So I sent an email to the matchmaker and I said, like, you know, you really embarrassed me in public. Um, and then ended up in this whole situation. Her like husband called me and yelled at me and told
Oh
me
my
I had
gosh.
chutzpah, and I barged into the event uninvited. There was this whole story. I still have the voice out. It's really entertaining. Um, and yeah,
That's
she
terrible.
never
That's
apologized.
insane.
And then he told me I have to apologize to her because I was disrespectful. I had chutzpah. Meanwhile, I was just asking her to apologize for publicly humiliating me, regardless of what the event was. Like, and I'm yeah. And maybe she got hurt that I told her like I really don't like going to events, but like I went to this one just because like I was trying to be open minded. Um, I don't know, but it was pretty awful.
No, that's
So
awful. And like
yeah,
I never believe I think it's very wrong that her husband called you. Like you're a young woman, like that's inappropriate. Like
yeah.
if she has something to say,
She
she should say it herself.
she was in the background, but he said his wife was too upset that she couldn't speak to me anymore. He had to speak for her.
No, that's wrong. I think that's so
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah. So I haven't had the best experience at singles events. Recently, I went to a singles Shabbaton. Nothing came out of it, which is a little disappointing, but like it was run very well. And it definitely gave me hope. Like there are some events that are run by normal people, nice people who have good intentions, who are not just there for the money. They do exist. Just if you go to a singles event where it's run really poorly, like don't go to an event run by the same person again.
Yeah,
Like be careful. And you don't have to go to every single singles event just because they exist. Like if you don't feel like going to one, don't go. But also like it's important to keep trying and not give up. Because if you just sit at home, you know, it's not gonna work out. You have to really put yourself out there and keep trying. But if a method doesn't work, maybe try something new.
agreed. Well said. Okay.
Yeah.
Avital, do you have anything else that you want to share before we get into our wrap up section?
Um I feel like I like said most of the crazy stories and like mostly the tips, like tips for the men, be conscious of a woman's time, put an effort, put on cologne or at least shower before, brush your hair if you have hair left, and look presentable. Like give it your all. Like we're spending so much time to go out with you. Like, and I also like I always say this, but like even if like you're not right for the women, like maybe she has a friend that'll be good for you. So for the men and women, like put your best foot forward. Even if like the guy is not for you, like you never know what will come out of
Agreed. Okay, so I know we just gave a lot of dating advice, but can you give one piece of dating advice?
Yeah. I would say my dating advice is to go with your gut. You know what's best for you. You know what's gonna work out for you. Just because somebody is telling you to do something, like, if your gut's telling you, "I don't wanna do it," or "It's not good for me," or "I don't wanna continue," like, don't do it. And I think I mentioned this earlier in the podcast, but I really have this belief that, like, if something is meant to be, like, God's gonna make it happen again. I've heard so many stories of people who had dated in their 20s to this, like, one person, and then it didn't work out, and guess what? 10 years later, they met again and they got married. It does happen, and if it's meant to be, you'll be brought back together somehow.
Well, yeah, agreed. That's a good tip. Okay, and then last but not least, Avital, can you um give your Real Housewife tagline?
So this was an interesting one. It's kind of like the tagline, but a little different. So the tagline is, "I'm not always right, but I'm never wrong." Like I'm not always right when it comes to like what the guy is gonna be, but like if right in the first 5 minutes of a date, I can usually tell like if it's gonna be really bad or good. So I'm not always right, like, before we go out, but, like, once I see the if I see a picture or if I go out, like, I can usually tell it's gonna be bad.
I like it. It's a good
I'm
one.
pretty observant.
I like it. It's a good one. And then
Yeah.
everyone remember, Avital is the Jewish meme queen, so I'm just gonna let her give a little plug.
If you guys enjoyed this podcast and like hearing my dating stories, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and also Facebook at the Jewish Meme Queen. Facebook is really just a repost of Instagram, so really you could just go onto Instagram. But for those who don't have Instagram, you can also follow Facebook. On Instagram, I post funny reels. I make memes about my dating stories. I also make memes that are not related to dating. I have done Q&As about dating horror stories. So if you want to laugh and you need some joy, definitely check me out. On Twitter, I post controversial topics that nobody in the Orthodox world discusses. So if you love drama, you'll love my stuff. And yeah, you'll never be bored. As my one of I think my coworker said this, but she always said like Avital, whomever you marry will never be bored. And I think the same goes with my social media. Like whatever you look, you'll never be bored. Like there's something on there that's gonna make you laugh, that's going to feel relatable, and you'll really enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, I know that I enjoy Avital stuff, so I definitely recommend everyone go giving her a follow. It's funny. If you like this podcast, you'll like her stuff. So, Avital, thank you again so much for coming on. This has been so much fun. And Sticky Situation Nation, you'll catch me next time. Bye, everybody.